My wife just texted me, okay, you're really loud. So I guess I better shut up.
Does she just have that as like a hotkeyed?
Yeah. I was about to say, does that have anything to do with the podcast recording, or does she just like generally drop those through the day?
It's just like social situations, the hospital,
So
at night,
Funerals.
funerals.
the circus, public sporting events.
Wait a minute, the circus.
While you're on stage in a play.
Yeah.
Hun?
At urinals. All right, let's just go.
In public bathrooms.
Yes,
If you can't be boisterous at a urinal, where can you be?
Boisterous Urinal was the name of my grunge band in high school.
That's genuinely a good one. Yeah.
Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Mythos Busters. I'm Sean. Joining me are my buds tonight, my pals, my guys. Let's start with Ian. Hey, Ian.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, just continually fighting off multiple waves of sickness, but
I was just about to ask you how you doing, sickie, but I'm like, there's no way he's still ill.
well, I got over the last one, and now I feel another one coming on. So hopefully, I will be victorious.
It's an ongoing battle. It's a Sisyphean effort when you have young kids at home. So that's just where it's at.
Yeah.
Joining us as well is Scott. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
How you now?
Good, and you?
Oh, not so bad.
I find that talking to friends my age who have little children, turns out you get more sick when you have people around your house that will sneeze directly into your mouth.
And
Without warning.
touch anything without any regard for anyone's safety. Definitely not their own.
Or cough right in your face, You're like, hey, how's it going? Good, Daddy. Like, thanks, bud.
Dude, my kid's 12 and I still have to be like, into your elbow, please, child.
Good to know that battle does not end.
No.
I want to be a germ vector when I grow up.
It's not a battle, Ian. It's a changed state of being.
Yeah. It's like you have to be used to like a good portion of your outer surface just being covered in bodily fluids at any given time. Yeah.
And it's your boy, Nick. Hey, Nick.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. The only thing I have to add to the child sickness round table is we're trying to get Roland, like he, for some reason, decided that he doesn't need to wash his hands with soap. Like, water's just going to do the trick. So now it's like, make him turn around, go back in, and add soap to his hands. So I'm like, great. Like, now that, especially this time of year, that's when shit's going to spread. So, like, buckle it down, kid.
Yeah.
You should teach him how to play Oregon Trail so he can see what dysentery does.
Or diphtheria.
Yeah.
Or, wait, cholera was in that one, too,
Cholera,
right?
yeah.
Cholera, yeah.
At least you won't have to worry about rattlesnakes, though. We've got a very, very special episode for y'all tonight. We've got our normal openers, we've got some fun news, and then we're going to cover 1,000 shapes of horror. But just at once, though, not 1,000 different entries, luckily enough. And then we'll round it out with some tentacle time. But before we get to any of that, let's check in with everyone. Scott, what you been playing of late?
Well, I actually drove 300 kilometers to hang out with a...
How many distances is that in
That's like 2
units?
city blocks, right?
God, that's like, let's see, 180 freedom units of driving-ish.
Okay.
How
many hours? Like, because I'm
Three.
Minnesotan, we measure distance in driving time.
Almost literally, like, door-to-door, 3 hours.
Okay.
On the dot. Google Maps said 302, but I drive a little fast, so
just a little
tough. But yeah,
Speed demon.
friend of the show and friend of mine, Morton, or goes by Morton Doll, came down out came down from Denmark to Canada, across to Canada. Anyways, for a thing, and he's like, "Hey, are you gonna be around this part of Canada?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'll drive a little bit to go see you." So we hung out for a little weekend there, also with Brian David Sandberg from Rite of Seeking. We played some Arkham. We did a Depths of Yoth, and I am much embarrassed that through the first level and a half, or depth and a half, we realized we totally played the game wrong.
It's almost... I mean, it's okay. It's understandable given you've never played Depths of Yoth before.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the can't explore while there's clues. I think we only broke that rule twice, so it wasn't very much. But, so... Yeah, we played Depths of Yoth, saw how far we could get down. We got to the 5th depth level, and then the store started to close, which sucked. But
Depths of Asterisk.
Yeah, God, it was terrible. But it was more fun just hanging out. We played some Marvel, too. But he played my... Oh, goodness, what deck did he play? Well, I played the Succeed by 2 Finn deck, which ran okay, but I didn't draw any of my cards. Like, I have 2 of the upgrade pickpockets and 2 lucky cigarette cases in there. They were all 4 like in the bottom third of my deck. So all the card draw that I depend on to like get all these cards so I can succeed by 2 or more, all my card draws at the bottom, which doesn't work out well.
Don't you just hate card games sometimes?
God do I ever. And then Morton played my No Test Preston, which I think I have to tweak a little bit, but man, I love that deck. Just ignoring the Chaos Bag, and not in a control way, just in a I don't ever need to test anything. So, yeah. And then...
Less of a cock block, more of a sidestep.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I'm not going to go that way, I'm going to go this way. And Brian played Desperate Duke. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Super fun decks, just going to say.
Sadly, I had to miss TNA this week, so we're going to have to try to pick that up next week.
Yes, please.
Got to get that back on track. Almost had a routine going, and then life is
I
life.
know. Don't worry. We'll
not
get it
entirely
back.
pleased about it.
Yep.
Ian, how about you?
Well, I've been continuing my Ashcan and Joe run of Return to Carcosa that I mentioned last time. And then the latest thing was I decided to just try a standalone build of solo Min, because I haven't tried Min for a long time, especially solo. So whenever I think of an investigator I haven't played for a while, then I try to give it some kind of a run. So I tried her against standalone Excelsior, and it actually did pretty well. So the shtick of the deck is, of course, Fire Axe to do most of the killing, as you might expect. But it's like a Dark Horse Min build, and then it relies on just a ton of card draw, so like Double Studious. I have Laboratory Assistance in there, Cryptic Research, so it's kind of just like a low cost curve deck once you get the initial stuff out, and then you're just committing a bunch of skill cards, because that's what Min does. Oh, and a Grizzly Totem plays a key role in there. So that's kind of the basic shape of the deck, and and then a Glimmer of Hope, which is the new Survivor event, which is like 1 wild icon, but for Min, that's
not
like
in
2
Min.
wild icons. Yep. So works out really well for her. So yeah, I need to try it against some other scenarios, but I think it's like a pretty well balanced like solo Seeker build where she wasn't really having a ton of trouble with enemies like solo Seekers can sometimes have, thanks to just having a ton of access to like icons to pitch combined with Dark Horse. So yeah, and this was also like the first Dark Horse build I've built in probably like a year or something. It's been a while, so I was actually having fun with it, surprisingly.
So I know the focus of this discussion is the deck that you played, but what was your final act?
Oh, it was the Ritual Tome. Is that what it's called? Ritual Tome, I think. And
Tome of Rituals,
the Solution.
Oh, nice. So does that...
So
Go Go ahead.
It was one of the brain endings or whatever it's
yes.
called. Yeah.
Those are fun and perfect for Min too.
Yeah, it actually worked out well for her because, like, with Dark Horse, she's testing like 5 base will or 5 intellect, and then throwing in. But I was having some really bad luck with like draws, like 2 tentacles towards the end, and then I was about to get knocked out if I didn't pass the last test, and it was like straight dead even, and I drew a 0. So,
Nice.
yeah, that was a close one.
Excellent. Nick, how about you?
I also played Solo Min recently, but unfortunately it was not in Arkham Horror the card game. It was in Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. That's literally the only Arkham that I've played since we last recorded.
That's a game that exists.
Yeah, and about 3 turns in, I realized why I stopped playing it as often. Those headlines cards, man, those are just not fun. Like, just straight up, they're not fun.
Tend to agree.
But I still ended up winning, like, actually won pretty handily in that. But this isn't Arkham Horror 3rd Edition podcast, so let's skip over that discussion.
Fair enough. I have gotten my Rex and Tony and Luke and Tommy, I just have to think about that for a second, campaigns caught up to current, which is great because I've really felt behind for the last couple releases. So looking forward to the new expansions as they come out. And in the meantime, I started up a new campaign. Guys, I'm getting pretty excited for Circle Undone Iron Man. I think enough time has elapsed that that I'm getting at it. I'm fairly certain I'm going to play Agnes, so I decided to try it out. And Nick, we talked about this since you started a TCU campaign last time. I had kind of a roller coaster with the prologue.
What difficulty are you playing?
It's standard.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I had a roller coaster with the prologue completely on the meta sense. It wasn't like gameplay wise. It was
sure.
first I was just not even going to play it. You know,
I see. Yeah.
It was going to be the thing where it's like, I'll roll a die to see how many evidence I get, and just whatever. I'm just not going to play the prologue. And then, as I started to get things set up for the first scenario, I'm like, you know what? It's been long enough. Let me just try it. I've never actually played an investigator where I wanted to get Penny, and she's pretty good, I think, in Agnes, or at least it seems. So I'll do Penny. We'll grab Jerome like I normally do, because Jerome's Jerome. And as I was setting it up, I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a while, okay. And I know these characters, and I know Jerome really well, and I kind of know what he wants to do. And now Penny's new, and I'm gonna get to figure that out. She's got some fun cards that she starts with, and then I get everything set up, and I'm about to start playing. I'm like, oh fuck, now I have to play this. And then I start playing, and I get a couple turns in. I have some decent momentum. Had a couple bad encounter card draws, and it was like, God, this just is dragging. And then really toward the end, it started to pick up again. I ended up getting both investigators into the mist.
Oh, wow.
Before they got iced. And it was real close. Penny was on 1 health and 1 sanity. And it was, if Ancient Evils came up the Mythos before we actually ended it, it would have been Quaitons. But managed to pull it out. But anyway, prologue, I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but I played it again, and it's I have some thoughts now for Iron Man, where I did not before, so at least there's value there.
Like about the prologue?
About the prologue in general.
Interesting.
I liked how, I think one of the listeners, I can't remember who, posited last year that, because there was that whole discussion of like, how do we handle the prologue as part of Iron Man, because that eats up time. So do we play that Friday, I think was where we kind of landed. And one of the listeners was like, I think the Mythos Busters should play the prologue on Friday, and that, whatever they get, is the prologue for everybody.
I thought we all agreed on the spot. I think
okay.
what we're going to do is we're going to play it, and hopefully, if we get our ducks in a row, we're going to stream it.
Oh.
And then anyone who's playing Iron Man can use those results, or if they feel like just saying, fuck off, I'm going to play the prologue myself, then,
That's where I thought we landed was we can provide one for somebody if they don't want to play it.
Right.
Like you can use our results or you do your own, but we'll be playing Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Fun.
streaming it. Wink, wink.
Doovies in chat says, "Can we agree that anyone on planet Earth can use those results?" I probably will from now on. Yeah, I've been thinking, like, since we talked about it last episode, I've been thinking about running the prologue four-handed, regardless of the player count in the campaign. Just because then it's like, well, those 2 players or whatever couldn't make it for the rest of the campaign. Wink, wink. So you know what I
They,
mean? Like,
dropped out.
just to see how it affects everything, because I've never played four-handed before, and I think the prologue is the only time I'd ever want to, because it's such a limited card pool anyway. You know what I mean? Like, that you're not playing with 4 full decks. So, and the investigators are pretty straightforward. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting beast. I'm still back and forth on whether I like it or not, but it exists, so we will play it.
right.
But the actual campaign that I'm starting, so last time I talked about the Succeed by 2 Daredevil Wendy build that I had. So I backed that up to level 0, and I'm playing that, and it's quite fun. I don't know if you guys know this, but Wendy's pretty good.
Thank you 3 years ago, Sean.
I was right then too. And the other deck I built, like I said, I want to try Agnes. We're so far from Iron Man, I don't even want to like attempt like what my Agnes build for that is going to look like. So, based on our discussion last time, I'm like, you know what? We had a cool suite of spell events come out. We've gotten a lot more spells in general. I feel like the mix might be there to actually build an Agnes deck where when I draw the heirloom, I will want to play the heirloom. So I set about making that deck with the heirloom as not really a build around in the parlance that we used it last episode, but more just like, if I see it, it's actually going to be good. And sure enough, it's been pretty solid so far. Let me post this build. This is actually a very, very different Agnes build from what I normally play. I don't know. I guess I played a lot of Agnes back in the kind of Dunwich days.
So the heirloom is when you play a spell, you can exhaust it to draw a card.
Nope, no exhaust. You just draw a card.
Okay, but it's only when you play a spell, right? And the reason why it was like why we kind of panned it earlier because you'd play assets and then they would sit and play multiple turns, right? Is that
It's because there were like 3 or 4 spells in the core set.
Right. Well, and that too, yeah. But also the number of times in a game you play assets versus the number of times you play events. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, I see.
So basically, this is a very, very purple heavy Agnes deck. Only hand slot she's running is Scroll of Prophecies because I'm just freaking loving that card and everything nowadays. Oh shoot, this isn't updated. It's got 2 Arcane Initiates instead of 2 Deny Existences, just because reasons. But the idea here is to upgrade into Diana Esperance. And have just it's just got a fun little suite of spells to play around with. Like, it's still pretty meat and potatoes mystic fodder, but it's been good. When I played the Witching Hour, I happened to get the heirloom out on like turn 3 and drew cards the rest of the game. It was everything I wanted it to be. And on my table right now, my first experience was to upgrade into Diana Esperance, and I grabbed a sacrifice. I've got Diana out, and I've got Spectral Razor on Diana.
Nice.
So the turn on at Death's Door, where all the monsters hop in after everything goes spectral, we got dropped with like 4 monsters. It was 2 of the, are they just called specters? The Wraiths, yeah, the little ones, just the 2/2/2s.
The ones
2
that
wraiths.
attach to the location.
Yep. So 2 wraiths,
yeah.
a hound, and a nether mist all got dropped on the same location because Wendy and Agnes were in the same location. So we just got flooded. So Agnes is sitting on 4 resources, has Diana with this out, and I've got a Storm of Spirit in my hand. So I'm like, all right. So I take an attack of opportunity to get a resource. The horror lets me deal a damage to the hound. I play a Storm of Spirits, take out both wraiths, and both wraiths and what's left of the hound. Wendy committed a quick thinking, so I was able to engage the Nether Mist, and then I Spectral Razored the rest of the Nether Mist and just cleared the board in one Agnes turn, and it was Oh, it was glorious.
Wow.
I don't know if this is the best / most consistent Agnes build ever, but I'm having fun with it so far. So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
Anyway,
Sweet.
that's pretty much what I have going on. And then TNA. Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get back to TNA.
I want to do more TNA because I want to spend the XPs. The XPs we got.
That's right.
It's the best part.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Ian, we should probably continue our downhill tumble at some point.
We should.
I mean-
yeah.
We have to play ours first. That's the thing.
That's
so
true. Oh,
we're
that's
holding
true,
you
that's
guys up. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So from there, let's move on to patron news. Ian, what we got going on that front?
So, first off, thanks as always to our board members. That is Chris B, Chris H, Chris U, our conglomeration of Chris's, Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Dave, Abilio, Nathan, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much for your gargantuan support for the podcast and all that allows us to do. Special shout out to a random patron this time around is to Sageless One. So, hey, Sageless One, thanks for supporting us. Much appreciated. And I think Sageless One is in the chat right now, too. So, that was
Yes,
a
he
good...
is. He or she.
That's a
That
good
username
random
makes me
coincidence.
feel personally attacked. Because
Oh,
my
gosh.
name is Sage. Sorry. It's like- Anyways, please continue.
Other big news this time around is that we have cracked the $500 mark on Patreon, which is not only just completely insane, just thinking about where we started, and like the kind of the dizzying heights we are at now, and just how thankful we are to everyone who has supported us along the way. But that also means we met our $500 goal, which is patron exclusive merch is now unlocked. So soon that will be appearing. I don't have exact time frame, but soon, TM, will be appearing on our mythosmerch.com site where you can find all our Mythos merch. Soon there will be patron exclusive merch, which will be just like it sounds, exclusive to patrons. They will have access to this. Let's see what else. And just in general, even if you're not a patron, go check out mythosmerch.com and buy a Mythos related gift for a friend or something, even if they don't listen to the podcast.
Especially if they don't. Especially.
Yes.
Or if you play solo, buy it for yourself.
Yep. Yeah, even better. And since we've broken one goal, that means we are creeping towards the next goal, and we are only about $40 away from one or more of the hosts here getting a Mythos related tattoo. Which, when we, like, to be honest, when we created this goal, this was totally like, we are never going to hit this goal, so let's just do something crazy. Like, oh, someone will get a tattoo, because there's no way we'll ever hit it. And now we're only like $40 away.
God.
And it's ridiculous. So if
What
you're
have
not
we
yet
done?
if you're not yet a patron and you want to see that happen, then yeah, it's within striking distance, so you could pitch in some money. And as mentioned before, whoever ends up getting the tattoo will, of course, document, and more than likely it will be.
I'm sitting right
Sean.
here, Ian.
Yeah.
Talk about me like I'm not here.
It will be well documented, and so you can see what it looks like, and you can enjoy the whole process. We also have an update to our Dissonant Voices project, which is our continuing project where we record the campaign entries to all the various campaigns of the game so that you can listen to those instead of reading the text. We had the Dream Eaters completed, and just recently, just this past week, Sean completed the Search for Kadath Dissonant Voices entry. So if you're a patron, you can find that on our patron page, where we have kind of the pin post that has the links to all the Dissonant Voices stuff. So, Search for Kadath available, and more to come soon. And final piece of patron business, we do have a new job title to give out. And this job is a little bit dangerous, a little bit risky, so we'll probably have to have this person sign some release forms. But Maxim is going to be taking on the job title of Azathoth Pipe Cleaner.
Bring
You gotta be-
earplugs.
Yes, very necessary. Otherwise, you too will become a piper soon.
And it's a lifelong appointment, FYI.
And you got to be really flexible to do this job. Pipe
Pipe-
cleaners are
okay,
flexible.
I was mad.
Yeah. There we go.
Wait for it.
And,
wait for it. Ah.
As Doobie says in the chat, you must supply your own cleaning supplies. Lemon pledge or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Lysol, baby.
I'm not sure what Azathoth's pipes require, but
They're definitely made of cherry and pine.
Final pledge. Oh, there's the kind you need.
All right, excellent. So I think we don't have any big community highlights this week. So let's skip to the news. Keep us going, Ian.
oh, it's back to me. So, this was not
Here you go, Ian. Thanks, Ian.
I should just throw it back to myself. This announcement was not a surprise because everyone knew Return to the Forgotten Age would be coming and announced soon. But yeah, we got official confirmation. I guess you should never take anything for granted in the world of gaming, where sometimes bad stuff happens and lines get canceled, etc. But Arkham is still chugging along strong, and so we get Return to the Forgotten Age. Just like before, it's gonna kind of add some cards to each scenario to freshen it up, some new player cards, new versions of player cards, that is, from cards that were in that cycle, and of course the nice kind of case container. What the hell? I can't find the right
Box?
Case container. That works. Did you
could
guys
not
bring your
think
card
of the
case
word box
containers?
for a second.
Wow.
Card receptacle.
Card hole.
Oh, jeez.
So you're gonna
Cardboard square with a lid.
Rectangular object.
So you're gonna get a nice designer card hole with some nice art on it, and that is where you'll put these cards, which is honestly one of the things I get most excited about for Return.
Yes.
To keep myself organized and make sure my box space doesn't run out. So we got a couple of previews of kind of what we can see as far as encounter cards go, but as usual we will be more concerned with the player cards. And in that respect, we have two to look at, and the first one is blue, so that means Nick's turn to read.
Yeah. All right. Survival Knife is a level 2 cost asset for Guardian. It has 2 combat icons, item, weapon, and melee traded. Takes up a hand slot, and its game text reads, Action, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. Okay. Reaction. When an enemy attacks you during the enemy phase, before resolving that attack. Exhaust Survival Knife. Fight. This attack targets the attacking enemy. You get +2 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. Nice. So 2 experience, you get to interrupt the attack rather than respond to it. I like it.
Yeah, so if it only has 2 health, then just kaput before it can hit you.
It does become a non-bow with guard dog, though, right?
Correct. Yeah, because this would possibly kill it before Guard Dog
Yes.
kills it. Yeah. But this might help Guard Dog finish it off. Like if it's a 3 health
That
enemy
too.
or something. Like 3 health rats in TCU.
Like, I just remember... yeah, like the rat... Oh, God, yeah. I just remember playing
the rat.
with the... God damn it. What are they called? The bowmen or the archers or whatever in Forgotten Age, and then discovered
the
that the
Esley
knife...
Guardians.
Yeah, that the knife can hit them when they're, locations away. I'm like, that's awesome. And now you can do that without even having to take the arrow first. Like, Leo just has this, premonition of an arrow flying towards him and then throws a knife a mile away.
Ha-cha!
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's so fun.
I like the idea that you could have 2 of these out and kill a 4 health enemy before it attacks you.
Okay, that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you could throw vicious blows in here to make it like if it's a
there's all
3
kind-
health.
See, so you've already picked it to resolve. Okay, rules question. So you've already picked it to start attacking. So let's say you do. God, I have bad memory today. The freaking the survivor skill that lets you evade it if you
A stunning blow.
It's a thud, yeah.
Stunning blow.
Stunning
Thud, yeah.
blow.
So
Stunning blow.
even if you pitch that here, it would be evaded, but it's still on the. It started resolving. It started the attack already, so it'd still attack you, right? Or would it not? Probably
So
have to
when is
consult.
before it starts? So before resolving that attack.
I imagine so. That's like moving locations in the middle of an investigate test or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it
That-
started the process, but hasn't started resolving it yet. So you'd evade it, but it's already started to attack you.
Mm-hmm. That's my instinct. I have no technical rules to back it up, but
I am not 100% sure on that one. That one has stumped me.
Well, the only reason, like, because exhausting isn't a cost to attack. It's what happens after the
It's a
attack,
reminder. It's just it's meant as a reminder.
Right? So evading it would exhaust the enemy and disengage it from you, but it's already starting its attack action, and just because it's exhausted, it wouldn't ignore that. You know what I mean? Like, I would think the attack would still resolve. But I want to go back to what Sean said about Guard Dog. Like, this and Guard Dog actually work great together, because with both of these in play, you can have an enemy engage with you and just ignore it during your turn, let Guard Dog chip away at it as it attacks of opportunity you, and then if it's not dead in the enemy phase, you can just kill it before it ever gets an actual hit on you. Like this. Oh, I love it. I love it.
it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's just nice as like an offhand weapon. It's 2 cost only. It's not taxing your resources a ton, and yeah, I think
Great
it helps
icons.
with situations where like it's happened so many times in multiplayer where it's like, okay, I'll move and grab this enemy from you, and like I don't have any actions left, so I guess I'll just
Yeah.
fuck myself. Like there's nothing to do. but with survival knife, then you have an option to that you can actually get some damage in.
So let me ask you guys an odd question. I feel like we all like level 0 survivor knife. How often do you guys actually use it? I feel like I actually put it in decks, and I feel like I'm pretty alone there.
I feel like I put it in as like weapon number 7. You know, and it's
Sure.
unfortunately
Wow.
It's like those scenes in a movie where they have to turn in all their weapons and they're like pulling it out of their boot.
Like I don't build a deck saying, all right, I better get my survival knives in. Those are my first picks. You know, like yeah, I don't know.
The level 0 version, it's more of a scenario by scenario basis. Like, again, Forgotten Age, I include it sight unseen, because of those bowmen, like because of that whole interaction. But this one, I think I'd be ready. I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what my level 0 weapon builds look, and playing true solo skews it as well, because I'm including fewer weapons generally than I would if I were playing like 3 or 4 player. So I don't know. But then again, I also don't run machete anymore, because because now that it costs 2 experience, I don't include it at level 0, but then it's still sorted with my level 0 cards, so I just never see it when I'm leveling up. So this might kind of replace that hole a little bit. I don't know. Good question, though.
Yeah, because I also feel I don't use the level 0 a lot, even though I include it. And I think it's just in that tricky spot where, I mean, obviously, as the Guardian Killer, you're trying to kill things before they get to the enemy phase, like, ideally. So, I don't know. And the other thing is, like, if you end up engaged with it, then you're probably just using some other weapon to chip away at it, and you're not relying on, like, because if something's engaged with you, then you're taking opportunity attacks to do anything else while you're waiting around for this to... So, yeah, it definitely has a use, but I think it's a little tricky to use sometimes.
Do you think it has more of a use in off-class Guardian?
I have run it in kind of a fighty Diana.
Sure. Well, you run everything in a fighty Diana. Like,
No, I don't know. I think level 0 survival knife, I really like it in any deck that is also running Guard Dog. I just really like that synergy.
yeah.
But yeah, it is generally an offhand weapon.
Okay. So the next one is red, so this is going to be a Scott card.
Yes, and this card is so good. All right.
Just like Orson.
I'm on my
also,
own.
It's also a Scott card.
Oh,
Oof.
Boo.
Even I hated explaining that one.
wow. That feels bad. All right. On Your Own is a survivor asset, level 3, null costed, talent traded. It has exceptional, so it costs 6 XP, and you can only have one. And it's permanent, so you don't have to draw your one copy of. Your investigator gains deck building restrictions, no assets that take up the ally slot. And then reaction, when you play a survivor event, exhaust on your own, reduce that event's cost by 2. So we have a level 3 on your own already.
Is this the first time we're getting a reprint at the same level of a card? I think so, right?
Oh, is the original level 3 as well?
It is.
Oh,
And
I
it's
didn't
limit 1 per
realize that.
investigator, but you can put 2 in your deck.
Yeah.
And it's not permanent.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So Ian, the only ones I can think of would be like the seeker side classes,
Sure.
or side quests.
But they have the different subtitles, so yeah.
Yeah, this one just made those like because people have played with On Your Own, trying to make like these interesting decks that recur, especially in Wendy, recur events, especially like Will to Survive, like just playing that every turn, so you're not drawing tokens from the bag. And this makes those weird combo decks a lot easier because you start the game with this.
Yeah. I feel like this takes the old version out back and shoots it. Like,
Well, okay. I agree. Question to that effect. Okay, so you know how if, like, say you're upgrading from level 3 shriveling to level 5 shriveling, you only have to pay the difference in XP. Technically, these have the same level, but since one is
Correct.
exceptional, if you have level 3 normal On Your Own and you want to upgrade to the permanent one, does it only cost you 3 XP?
Nope, cost 6.
Woof.
Boo.
Yeah, because it's the same levels. You're not upgrading it. It would be like changing one of the seeker side quest rewards to a different one.
Okay.
It's because it's still level 3, even though it costs more because it's exceptional. The other thing, though, I realize that it is exceptional, but it costs the same amount of XP as putting 2 of the old
right,
Old
so
in
it's
your deck.
essentially the same
Yeah.
XP cost.
So,
And open up 2 slots in your deck, too.
Doovies in chat mentions that this card still allows you to add allies to your deck through campaign progression. Only restriction is when you build decks. So does that mean that line is kind of useless because when you add this, your deck is built, you're just upgrading it? Or is deck building, is when you level up your deck, is that considered building it?
That's considered building it. So he's talking
Okay,
about, like, adding Ichtaka.
Right,
Or something.
yeah. So you couldn't, like, throw in Pete, leveled up Pete with this. you know?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm way more likely to use this now. Just that permanent, the fact that it's going to be there from the beginning, you can rely on it. Like, it still has the issue where I love my ally slot and it's hard to give up, but knowing that I'm going to get full value from turn 1 makes it a little bit easier to swallow, I think. I could definitely see some survivor builds that could use this.
I like the precedent that this is setting now, where you slap exceptional on a card and make it permanent, and that's all it takes. Like, that excites me. To think of like suddenly my mind is just like, ooh, like, well prepared as a permanent for 4 experience. Like, that'd be awesome, stuff like that. So
Yeah, because I feel like the permanents just feel like you're upgrading a character in an RPG where they just have, it's like something you always have available. Like,
right.
I've thrown together a couple of On Your Own decks in Arkham DB since the original came out. What always stopped me from actually building them and trying them is that there never seemed to be a good critical mass of events that made it seem worth it. So Will to Survive is really good, and if you can recur it, great. But Do you guys find a similar issue with it at all, or do you think we have the suite of events now that'll actually make this work?
I was about to say that a character that can take level 3 Survivor and Rogue, any Rogue, could make good use of on your own. But then I realized that it's only Survivor events. So
that's
I think that's kind of the thing that keeps this thing from being totally busted. So
Yeah, and it's once per turn,
right.
too, yeah.
Except for Ashcan.
I was just going to say, except for Ashcan, discard a card to then reduce the cost of another event. So,
That's pretty baller.
yeah. It's a neat card. I like this much better than the original version, just because of the permanent. Like,
And Ashcan can still run Duke in flagrant disregard.
Yep. Does it count as an ally?
As you do.
I mean, if any class can make this work, it's Survivor, just because they have so much soaks with, like, keepsakes and coats, and you can recur them easily, and even more easily these days with Scrounge for supplies, so I think they can make it without allies.
just looking at the text, though. Sorry, I'm just going back to what Duvie said in chat about the story assets. Now I'm kind of second guessing that, because I just looked at some of the text, like when you get to add them. So Randolph Carter. Any one investigator can choose to add Randolph Carter to their deck. This card does not count towards that investigator's deck size. Not. So now I'm.
So what
I think this is going to be.
You're thinking that
might
you
be
can't include them?
Yeah, this might be a Matt question, but unless someone has already asked Matt, but
I'm sure they have. Whether he's had time to answer is a different issue.
yeah. So I want to believe that you can add the story assets, but
Otherwise, that would suck if you're playing solo with this. Like, imagine playing solo Dunwich with this, and then getting through Blood on the Altar. And
Yeah,
you're
because
like,
aren't
"Okay,
there
that's-
scenarios where you have to, like, they assign you an
yeah,
an
you
ally?
could definitely have them. You can definitely have them during this scenario, because they're not added to your deck yet.
Yeah.
It's when you get to the
Sure.
resolution. So you can have, because the original one was you have to discard it.
Right. This is just
discard
you can't
on
have
your
them as
own.
part of your deck. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So it doesn't break the scenarios and make your life terrible. Yeah.
I do love the idea, though, of running through solo Dunwich with this and then also buying Charisma. 'Cause that seems like a thing you might do if the rules work that way.
Yep. So that is Return to Forgotten Age, which should be coming up soonish once the cycle's over. But that was not all the news, because there was a AMA with Matt and Jeremy, where they were answering, the standard questions that they often get asked. But at the end, there was an announcement of what the next cycle will be, and the next cycle is going to be the Innsmouth Conspiracy. So Innsmouth confirmed at last, which I feel like has been continually, like, every other day there's a thread on the Arkham Facebook group, like, when is Innsmouth coming?
Now we all just get to cry in Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so should be coming as the next cycle after this. No other details yet. Hopefully we'll get some articles soon and start spoiling the investigators and all that good stuff. But we know there's going to be fish people, because Innsmouth, and they're in the art that was spoiled.
And what an exciting title, too. The Innsmouth Conspiracy. Like that. Calling it a conspiracy, just the mind reels at what could be involved. So.
Fish people.
I really hope there's, like, we've seen the special investigator text for, like, Lola and Carcosa, and what else did we get recently? Like Silver Twilight people and Circle Undone. I hope we get stuff for Silas where it's like he has to fight his inner fish. Because that's a big part of his story, is how, like, he gets called to the ocean by his kind of fish nature. So that would be cool if that somehow plays a part in the campaign text.
By his
I'm
deep
hoping.
daddy.
His deep daddy.
Dagon the Deep Daddy.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I'll do my part in making that stick.
I'm kind of happy that I just came up with that. Like, that was fun. That was a
Now
fun
I'm just
little journey.
picturing some big old elder cod with, like, the chain that just says daddy on it.
Funny thing is, I thought you said Elder Cod, and that would still work.
That's totally what I thought
had
you said too.
Elder God.
Elder God, Deep Daddy. Wow. All right.
Holy fuck, this is amazing.
Elder God.
Dagon the Deep Daddy.
That is now the official name. Deep Daddy Elder God.
And then one other thing got teased because it's Matt in that AMA, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but they talked about a couple of new product types that are upcoming. So things for Arkham Horror that have yet to be a product type. So I'm interested to see what that's going to be.
Yeah.
My hope is that they kind of take the idea that they've got going with Marvel and kind of the idea that they have with their competitive games where they do the World Champ decks and throw those together where we get like, hey, buy the Agnes Baker deck where, hey, it comes with replacements and full bleed art and cool stuff like that. So that's my hope. Anyone else got a guess?
They should start making official Iron Man decks. And like, this person completed... It's never going to happen, but this deck completed Iron Man successfully. Now you can buy it. Like,
dude, okay, so here's the problem, and Ian, you can back me up here if you want. I think you might. But the problem became very apparent in Lord of the Rings when they did this, because they actually, it was really dumb in lots of different levels, but for the release of the collector's edition, they did a couple of pre-constructed full bleed art with promo hero decks, like pre-constructed decks that Caleb made. And Caleb is a friend. I love him as a person, but holy fuck, those decks! Like, there were so many choices that were like, really? Silverlode Archer? You're giving us full bleed Silverlode Archer, Caleb. Jesus Christ. Morton was typing it as I said it. It was a thing. So it's cool and I want it, but it's also kind of that interesting thing where since we don't have a championship to fall back on to be like, hey, this is verifiably a really good deck list. It's just kind of an interesting area to get into to be like, all right, well, how do you pick what goes in?
Iron Man.
I mean, yeah, sure. I'll be fine with that. We got to get on the schedule first.
I'm pretty stumped as to what it could be. But the only thing I've seen people throw out that might be possible that I'd be down for is if it's just some type of like additional player card packs and stuff, because I'm always down for growing the player card pool faster than it usually happens in a cooperative LCG. And maybe it could be along a certain theme, like these are a pack of criminal cards or something, that would be cool. But other than that, I don't know. The only thing they said is that this is coming out in between Return to Forgotten Age and the next cycle, the Innsmouth Conspiracy. So it's not that far away, whatever this new product is.
Do you guys think that they just forgot that they already announced Barkham Horror? I mean, I've seen FFG do less weird things.
I'd be mad if that's what it was.
It's Sharkham Horror.
Yeah, Sharkham Horror, Snake'em Horror.
Not that I'd be mad if Barkham Horror came out, obviously, but I'd be mad if they're like, and a new product type. Oh, wait, we already told you guys about this. Never mind, it's just the dog one.
Cool. Well, we'll look forward to that. I'm sure we'll have a very fun episode when that actually gets announced. Okay, so moving on from there, let's hop into our main Tupac. Let's talk 1,000 Shapes of Horror. So, spoiler alert. Well, we're going to talk player cards first, but eventually we're going to get into the scenario and we're going to be breaking everything down. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the scenario, go ahead and pause when we get there. But first, let's talk player cards.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
My
no,
rules
sorry.
seg-
Yeah, we've got fun tech.
God.
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry. I just got excited. We've got fun rules tech. Scott, lay it on us.
Okay, so rules section. when there's not big rule changes, I'm just going to find really funny little things in the rules. And this is new to me, but apparently some people in the community already knew this. But anyone who can take Stick to the Plan, that Guardian card that Nick loves and everyone else likes as well very much. I'm just saying, like, you just always play it. You're the person I'm like, when I think Stick to the Plan, I'm like Nick. But
It's good.
I'm not arguing. It's a very good card. So Stick to the Plan, at the beginning of the game, you search your deck for 3 cards to put on Stick to the Plan. If you happen to be a Guardian that can take level 0 Seeker cards, such as Roland or Zoe, or some people have been versatiling in one copy of this with Mark, which I totally am cool with because he draws a lot of cards. Astounding Revelation. So when you search your deck at the beginning of the game, you trigger that Astounding Revelation, you take your 2 resources, put it aside, and you start the game with 7 resources. So yeah, I think that's just such a cool interaction. Just because it is Myriad does not mean you have to take all 3. But yeah, that just made Stick to the Plan that much better to me.
It needed it. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So who all can take that? So Zoe, Roland, Joe, and Lola? No, but Lola can't do it because she can't actually trigger the effect.
Yeah. Joe cannot.
Oh, Joe can't
Carolyn.
take Stick to the Plan. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Carolyn can take it. And I would versatile that into Mark, honestly. Like,
Sure.
Mark draws so many cards.
Worth it.
That extra 2 resource boost at the beginning. Yeah. It's only really adding 4 more cards. And yeah. Like, how many times have you played Mark and you get to the end of your turn, you're like, I have 10 cards in hand. Oops. Like,
Many, myriad times.
yeah.
Sick tech, bro.
Yeah. Okay, get on with your scenario thing.
1,000 Shapes of Horror.
There we go.
Nick, would you be so kind as to read Tetsuo Mori for us?
Oh, that's right. We're actually reading the cards. I would. And I have him right here. Tetsuo Mori is the man who... too noble for his own good. 3 resource cost, level 0 guardian asset. 1 intelligent... Oh my god. Is it intelligence? 1... Intellect icon. Ally and police traded. His game text reads, Tetsuo Mori may be assigned damage under horror dealt to other investigators at your location. Reaction. When Tetsuo Mori is defeated, choose an investigator at your location. That investigator searches either their discard pile or the top 9 cards of their deck for an item asset and adds it to their hand. Shuffle their deck if it is searched. He has 2 health and 2 sanity, and he takes up the ally slot.
I mean, Guardians run a lot of items. So...
As do many investigators, because you can give this ability to someone else.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you can hit the discard pile too,
Yes.
if it's something you've already used up or pitched.
And, like, he's just a little mini True Grit / something worth fighting for.
Sure.
So
I mean,
I've included him a couple
Yeah.
times, but I don't think I've ever gotten him to actually trigger when I needed him to. Like, I've never been able to pull... Like, I've always just used him as soak, and then it's like, well, I already have my weapons out, so we'll just not worry about the item search this time.
Did you forget to give it to your teammate then?
Well, I play solo.
Well, there's your
There
problem.
goes no teammate.
Sorry, Guardian solo, what are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like this guy gets more value in multiplayer for sure. Not that he can't
totally.
play role in solo, but just the fact that there's more targets to give it to, and also like that you can get more advantage of that ability that you can soak damage from other investigators too.
And let's see, Morton points it out in the chat. I think most of the investigators who can take him, their signature is an item. So, like, go grab the dagger in Diana. Go grab the cross in Zoe. Go get Roland's gun. Go...
Get Becky.
Yeah, get Becky. always get Becky.
Yeah, definitely a good Tommy choice for sure.
I don't know. I think at level 0...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Just in general, I like the 2 health, 2 sanity stat line in allies.
Yeah. I think he's decent in solo. I say this as a seasoned solo player. But he's quite good with each successive player you add, because you're going to be able to proc him quicker by soaking up damage or horror for other people. And then the ability to toss this to anyone at your location just means that you get to decide in that moment, all right, where does this need to go? If I've got my weapon set up, because, Nick, as you pointed out, as your guardian, we've all been kind of trained ourselves to get ourselves set up without lots of tricks, just to kind of put enough weapons in your deck that you probably start with one, that sort of thing. But in multiplayer, I mean, there's almost always going to be a good use for this.
Yeah,
that's true.
No.
And in Tommy, he pays for himself and some if he maxes out.
How do you guys think this interacts with Prepared for the Worst? And by that I mean, if you throw this guy in, are you taking out Prepared for the Worst? Would you run both?
I think it depends entirely on how contentious that ally slot is. If I'm running a deck where I am going to be churning through, like I've got guard dogs and I've got Tetsuo and maybe a beat cop, something like that, then yeah, I'll drop Prepared for the Worst. But again, I keep running back to Diana because that's what I do. If I'm running Renfield, then chances are I'm going to want the event instead.
Yeah,
I think the big difference too is Prepare for the Worst is a event
Weapon
you can play
specifically.
weapon, but turn 1, action 1 only costs 1.
Yeah.
Whereas Tetsu, it costs 3. You have to put him out, and then he has to die.
it's
specifically-
much slower. Yeah.
And specifically defeated, right? Not discarded. He has to be
Right.
killed by damage or horror. So you have to have something hit you, whether it be a treachery card or an enemy. But
I want to see like a level 2 or 3 Tetsuo that lets you then play the item you find immediately.
Well, that'd be level 3, I think.
Somewhere, whatever it would need to be, but just the ability to like fast play down what you grab, that would be pretty cool.
That's like a lot of these fetch cards, a lot of these cards that go and look for something, like that's often like, I'm like, oh, but it doesn't put it in play. Oh, damn. Like, oh, that's too bad. Like, oh, that's so, like, it's such a, like, if it's not that it's still good tempo to go and find the card and add it to hand, but at the same time, it's like it's so close. Like, just let me put it on table.
I'm kind of feeling like Prepared for the Worst is the choice you take if it's like, okay, this is my flamethrower build and I want it from turn 1. And Tetsuo's more like, I have a variety of items in my deck that I might want to grab at some point. So this would be a useful ability to have.
this is like, I'm playing Mark. I got a weapon in my hand to play first turn. I'm going to put Tetsu down to soak some stuff. And as my gun is running out, he's going to go help me grab my other gun.
Yeah.
Or another one.
Or some other type of item that might,
Yeah.
Sam the Man G in chat. Use Tetsuo to grab backpack.
Yo, dog,
then
I heard
play
you
your-
like backpacks.
Hey, you know what? If this goes off while you're at the same location as Mandy,
Yeah.
just saying.
Not terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Scott, why don't you read Fool Me Once?
I will. Fool Me Once is a 1-cost Guardian event, level 1, and it has a wild icon. It's insight and tactic traded. Fast. Play when you discard a treachery card after resolving any of its effects. Put Fool Me Once into play in your play area and attach that treachery to it. Reaction. When any investigator draws a copy of the attached treachery card, discard Fool Me Once, cancel that card's revelation effect.
Question.
Guardian weird cancel?
I like
Question.
it a lot.
Before I get too deep into this, investment into this, how does this interact with peril?
You would have to...
The person who played this would have to be the one to draw the next one for this to actually cancel it? Because
I don't know.
I ask because I start thinking about some of the landmark treacheries where I really want this to hit, and maybe I'm knee deep in
Ancient Evils.
Ancient Evils for sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking Fate of All Fools in TCU, but it has peril, and there are lots of the really nasty treacheries that have peril. So if this doesn't work when someone else draws a peril treachery, then it does weaken its stock a little bit.
I can't imagine it would work.
Yeah, because it's when it draws a copy, because you're not allowed to see the other person's
Right.
copy
Yeah, I don't think it would work.
when it's peril kind of thing. I don't think so.
Okay. So
That
that's,
being said-
that's the thing. There are still plenty of good targets for it, but that is a
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, Ancient Evils is the big one.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in multiplayer scenarios where it keeps shuffling the discard pile into the encounter deck.
Yeah, especially Dark Side of the Moon, where it reshuffles into the goddamn encounter deck like 16 fucking times. Ugh. We'll have words when we get to that scenario.
Yeah. I feel like there's just a lot of targets out there. Like in each scenario there's like one or two treacheries that are just like brutal and they keep popping up over and over inevitably. Or this is good for Sean, who always draws the same treachery over and over again.
Should have had
look
this
away.
for Blob.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't mind this. I think it's kind of a cool counterpart to Ward of Protection. It's a little bit more guardian-y because someone has to tank it first, and then you get kind of a benefit. Like to point out, it is a Diana card, so this could go under Diana, which is pretty sweet always.
Kind of cool interaction is something with like Frozen in Fear. You would play this after you do the test of Frozen in Fear, like the test 3 willpower at the end of your turn. Because play when you discard a treachery card after resolving any of its effects.
Right.
So, and then next time someone draws Frozen in Fear, you can stop them from having to put that in their threat area.
And what's cool is since a reaction is an optional trigger, if Akachi draws Frozen in Fear, you can just kind of let that sit and wait for Skids to draw it.
Yes.
I was just going to say this would have been nice when I was playing Skids and I got 2 Frozen in Fears and I was like, well, fuck me. Like,
Yeah, the fact that it's like holding on to that treachery in its clutches, the first copy, is like a little side benefit that you might be able to exploit. Like in those scenarios we mentioned where it keeps shuffling in, like if it's just sitting there and you're keeping it trapped until you really need to use it, that might be useful.
Doobies brings up like this.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I was going to say
about the
Doobies in
same
the
thing.
chat. The second or third copies of Demonic Piping from the encounter deck. So, the ones that come out and say, once there's 3 of these,
yeah.
like,
Terror
you're
in the
screwed.
Night or whatever that one's. Yeah, Terror in the
Just
Night.
sit on it.
Yeah.
I want to Fool Me Twice that is this, but upgraded, and it lets you search the encounter deck for another copy of the card and remove it. I just wanted to say Fool Me Twice. Anyway, we can move on.
We know, Nick.
That was very, very self-sacrificial of you, Nick.
Oh my god.
Oof.
Ian?
Oof. I took the horror straight in the face. Okay. Self-sacrifice. This is a guardian skill, level 0. Spirit traded. Hello, Calvin. Commit only to a skill test of any type being performed by another investigator at your location. If this test fails, you must resolve all effects from the failed test instead of the performing investigator. Then, either you draw 2 cards, or the performing investigator draws 2 cards.
A self-sacrifice.
So yeah, Calvin
Yeah.
Calvin takes this, and other people...
It's okay in Tommy.
I think there are better ways for people to get... like, the thing is, Guardian has, 4 other level 0 cards that let you pull damage and horror from people. So... And this is a one-time, whereas those are assets, so I don't know.
But this has that card draw, though.
Sure.
So, like, in Tommy, you're getting the resources, and you're getting cards
Yeah, that's
to
fair.
play with those resources.
This is when you draw the frickin' +1, though, every time.
Right? It's the take heart thing, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Terrible solo card. I agree,
It's not
Sean.
great. Not great at all. Not where I was going, but I fully agree. I was going to go way more abstract, so let me run this one by you guys.
Oh, jeez.
So we have a lot of things in the game that kind of go in place of healing You know how a lot of times when you build a deck, you're either building in enough soak to get you by, or you're building in, logical reasonings and so all of us have kind of learned on some level to build our own decks to survive. And I think that it just inherently kind of takes away from the value of cards like this, of cards like True Grit and Something Worth Fighting For, and I don't know what are other good examples. Because sure, why not? Because I think in order to really take advantage of cards like these and make them good, the other people in the group have to be playing super aggro, because this is taking the place of cards that everyone else would normally be including just to keep themselves alive. And it's just kind of a dedicated strategy that kind of actually requires you to commit to it. And to actually get a benefit from it, everyone else has to be playing a little bit more aggro. Otherwise, who cares?
Yeah, this being a Guardian card, I think it belongs more in the off-class. Like, I don't think a Guardian character is going to be taking to other than Tommy. Like, but I think he's a niche case, or like he's a specific case. I don't think like Roland or Mark are going to take this because they're going to have options to do that, so I don't know.
So let me throw this out to you. What if the test doesn't have any effects from a failed test? So what if you're playing this in Carolyn, let's say, and Carolyn is your Kluver for this game, and who's really bad at investigating? Mark? Sure, Mark. Mark could just try an investigate test. Well, yeah, okay. Pick a test, but pick an investigator who's going to fail an investigation test, and just commit this to it, right? Like, so this doesn't have to be like an attack with retaliate loaded onto it, and like if it fails, whatever. Like, you can maybe find a test that doesn't matter, similar to Take Heart, and this is a weird Take Heart for Guardian.
But do you devote 1 or 2 out of 30 cards to this so that you can then search for a test that won't have a negative, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
right.
It's tough.
I'm just saying there's another option to playing it, right?
Oh,
so
sure.
This in a Carolyn deck where you're playing with, let's say, Mark, and a Rotting Remains comes up, right? Like, you can also use it for that because she's like, well, I got Horror Soak and I'm going to heal it and stuff like that.
I was thinking this in Carolyn would be fun, but yeah.
It's tough not having any icons on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
it should have negative icons like Silas's weak. That one's just called Sacrifice. Yeah.
It's like, obviously you want it to fail, but I just mean like having anytime when I'm building decks, anytime a card has no icons, like I really got to look hard at it to justify it taking up space in the deck.
All right. So let's move it on. Yeah, so I'm excited about this one. I was just talking about this before the cast. Otherworld Codex is a Seeker asset. It's level 2. It's 3 cost. It has a Willpower and Intellect icon. It is item and tomed traded. Tomed traded. I don't know why that's past tense, but it is. Tomed.
I don't know why that's where I went.
Uses 3 secrets. Action, exhaust Otherworld Codex and spend a secret. Search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck and choose a non-elite card among them. Discard a copy of the chosen card from play. Shuffle the search cards back into the encounter deck, and it takes up a hand slot. So, I think this is pretty great in general. I think it's very good in Mandy. Because you can, if you're really digging for a laser focused solution to one thing, you can search 12 cards to find it. Or if you're just kind of using this for general utility, you can search 9 and grab 2.
I think that's the power play.
Well, I just think it's context specific, but having the option for both is amazing.
Right,
Scott.
So I'm pulling up Mandy because I think. One sec.
Okay. Keep bumping my microphone. Sorry.
So when you spend a secret, search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck and choose a non-elite copy among them. Discard a copy of the chosen card from play. So does she say you can choose 2 cards and then discard a copy of the chosen card? Like, does this work with Mandy is what I'm asking. I hope it does.
So you're saying
double
discard
card.
2 copies of 1 card or discard 1 copy of 2 cards?
Or does that even work?
Well,
Well, I think it would have to be one or the other, wouldn't it?
I'll counter your rules fuckery with similar rules fuckery. If you play Premonition and then Olive, does Premonition take 2 tokens?
It does.
I think that would work then.
Okay.
Wait, so which one? Do you discard 2 copies of 1 card or do you discard 1 copy of 2 cards?
I think it would have to be the discard. You have to
2
choose
copies
2
of 1?
cards.
Oh, you choose 2 different cards and discard a copy of each?
Yeah, because that's the searching aspect that you're
Okay.
that you're doing
Yeah,
2 targets.
That's how I would read
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
Outside of Mandy and what's her name? Daisy.
Daisy.
Yep. Do
Who
like
takes
it in
this?
Daisy. Free action here for Daisy's pretty solid.
Like, that's, to me, the action is the biggest part of it. And unless you're playing 4-player, like, how often are you going to have the opportunity to spend an action on this? You know what I mean? Like, unless you're Daisy or Mandy. Daisy who can get it for free, or Mandy who can exploit it. Like, who else runs this? Anybody?
I mean,
If you're running a campaign with lots of ancient evils, then maybe
then
that
you find
action is
time.
worth
Yeah,
the
that's
3
probably
actions.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it's a common problem with most of the tomes because who the fuck reads nowadays? You know, ain't nobody got time for that.
I can't wait for the Kindle asset.
It gives you 10 extra hand slots for tomes.
My e-reader, you can have unlimited tome assets in play.
Then you gotta keep it charged and find a charger.
Yeah. You have to play the Mystic card recharge.
Oh, wait a minute. Dahlia in chat, or Dahlia in chat, is saying that, oh my god, I never realized that.
No, that's true. This is
You
true.
discard the card from play, not the one you find in the deck.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
So
god, we're
if-
terrible readers.
Yeah, it has
If
to
it's
be.
free,
reads
it has to be one
nowadays?
that sits in play.
Yeah, someone in a threat area or enemy. I mean, I think
So
in
Fate of All Fools is one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Frozen in
Well,
Fear,
that's the thing is, like,
potentially.
Dream Eaters and Circle Undone have so many of these cards that enter your threat area. Whereas, like, Carcosa
Or
and
attached to a
Dunwich-
location.
Yeah. But, so I think that it's come, like, this hit in the right cycles for that. But,
Yeah,
I mean, and don't forget this also works on enemies.
yeah,
oh, yeah, that's true, too.
yep.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, guys! Did you listen when I read the card?
No.
No.
Yeah, I think
Alright.
enemies was one of the primary things I thought of originally, just because it seems like a lot of scenarios have like a little like putty like throwaway enemy that's kind of weaker, but there's 3 copies of it, and those are a good target for it. But I think
Also,
I think in general this is more of like a 3 or 4 player card, just because there's more stuff on the board that you can hit with it.
I'll continue championing Knowledge is Power because I think that is a drastically underrated card
Oh, I
by most
love it.
people. Knowledge is Power on this is a fast action. If you're trying to hit an enemy, doesn't invoke an attack of opportunity and doesn't spend one of your secrets. Yeah.
So nice.
Yep.
I love Knowledge is Power. I'm like,
it is a great card.
oh, yeah, it is.
Anyway, Otherworld Codex, I kind of like it. I think this is just one of those cards that's going to be really campaign specific, like we pointed out. If you've got a lot of things that are going to attach to enemies, attach to locations, sit on the agenda, whatever it happens to be, then this is great. And if you're playing Dunwich or Carcosa, it's middling.
Yeah.
All right. Scott, you want to enhance the next card?
Oh boy, do I, because this is maybe my favorite card in the pack. Dream Enhancing Serum. 3-cost Seeker asset with a willpower icon. It is item and science traded. As the text, only the first copy of each card in your hand count towards your maximum hand size and reaction after you draw a copy of a card that is already in your hand. Reveal both copies and exhaust Dream Enhancing Serum. Draw 1 card. And it takes up the arcane slot. Guys, you know how good it feels to have 14 cards in Mandy and not have to discard cards? It feels great.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe you. When I first saw this, and I have yet to try it, so this is like completely anecdotal evidence. I just 3 cost is not nothing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Arcane slot probably not going to matter much for a lot of investigators who are looking at this.
Like in Mandy, it doesn't.
Like in Mandy,
Yeah.
unless you're going like weird Mystic Mandy, I guess. Although she doesn't
probably
play Mystic assets, so yeah, even then. And I really like toolboxy decks where you have lots of options, but is the amount of options that you gain from this actually worth 3 cost and an action?
It's not so much the hand size, it's the drawing of cards. Like, you draw your second or third copy of 3 aces in Mandy, and it draws you another card. When you have 2 out, if you draw your second copy of Deduction, you now draw 2 more cards.
Oh, shit.
Like, it's more so the fact that you just draw your deck so fast. And with Mandy, the ability to find it when, and with Myriad cards, like, this works so great with Myriad.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's a card that I need to actually try. I feel kind of uninformed to comment on it, because my first reaction is underwhelming as well, but I'll caveat that I can totally see the use in Mandy, but I feel like Mandy also warps a lot of things, like, just because of the nature of who she is. Like, so I'm just wondering, outside of, like, the Mandy meta, like, outside of using in Mandy, how powerful it'd be. Yeah, I just have the same thing about like the 3 cost, and I feel like there's other card draw on Seeker that might be easier to trigger reliably, but again, I feel uninformed in my analysis.
So I'll throw it out there that think of Seeker decks that you build that aren't Daisy, because Daisy will use her arcane slots, and I don't think that this would challenge you to basically like balance your slots. Think of, like, let's say Ursula, and think of decks where you run 2 copies of a bunch of cards, and every time you drew your second copy of a card, you drew another card. Like, that's what this is to me. It is the card draw. It's not the hand size, like, it's the card draw, and it just stops you from getting screwed over by all this hand draw or all this card draw by increasing your hand size, essentially.
So I will say that I included this in a very light Mystic Daisy build, Sean, last time that you and I played 4-player. And the only downside that I had to this card was that I kept forgetting to trigger it. So I counted my hand size correct, that I was like, okay, these cards don't count towards hand size, but then I draw another duplicate and I'm like, oh yeah, this one doesn't count either. Continue my turn, and I would totally forget to exhaust it to draw a card. Like, I think I maybe did that once in the whole scenario. So
I too am a better deck builder than I am a player.
right? Yeah. So I feel like even though I have played it, I haven't experienced it. So
I just put a link in chat for my 3 Aces Mandy. If anyone wants to experience this deck, it's great.
Actually, the solo min deck I mentioned at the top of the episode, that I'm thinking about it, this would actually do some work in there, because it's like big hand and drawing so many cards.
30 card Mandy? God, Scott, what are you doing to me?
Consistency is what I'm doing to you.
Drawing through your deck over and over again.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
You're gonna hold half of your deck in your hand here. Come on!
I mean, the Queen's Pendant exists, so why not just use it 3 times?
All right. So then let's move on to the next yay. I suppose this one better go to Ian.
So this is a rogue event, level 0, cost 0. So far, so good. Combat icon. Let God Sort Them Out has the tactic and fated traits, I guess. Play only during one of your turns in which you defeated enemies with a total of 6 or more health. Add Let God Sort Them Out to the victory display and immediately end your turn. When earning experience during the resolution of this scenario, you earn 1 additional experience. Ooh. Well...
shitty delve too deep.
Yeah.
And we're moving on.
I feel like this this took a little bit of a hit from Matt learning from the experience of delve too deep. and balancing this one way more.
Right, balancing. That's a very generous word to use.
Smashing in the face with a baseball bat.
I find that this is harder to make happen
Oh yeah.
because it has to be you that kills the enemy. It's not like you can attach this event to an enemy and when it dies, it goes to the victory display or something. And then also, it's only you that gets the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll say what everyone's thinking. No one's ever going to play this.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Tain't
for me
worth
to play
it.
this.
Tain't worth it.
As much as I love extra XP, it's just more than anything, like, toss everything out from this card, but that 6 or more health, it's so hard to trigger that you have to do it. Like, granted, in 4-player, maybe in a swarmy scenario where there's tons of enemies coming out, I could see doing it. Like, I've definitely played games where you just feel like you're constantly, like, swimming through enemies and killing them. But other than that...
This happens, but how often are you going to have the damn card in your hand at the right moment?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
often.
I guess it's a tactic, so Mark can take it. So yeah, he'll draw into it early and
I mean,
sit
he's
on
probably
it till
the
it works,
best user of it, along with Tony, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But even then...
Yeah, I just don't see this ever panning out outside of like high multiplayer accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can use, like, if there is an enemy with 6 or more health, and you don't have to do all the damage on one turn. Like, this is just the killing blow on whatever turn, but still, it's tough.
Let's make a swift retreat from this one. Nick, you want to read our next one?
Swift Reload is a level 2 rogue event. There we go. Okay, level 2 rogue event. It costs 3 resources, has 1 agility icon, tactic, and trick traded. So Rita can take it. Fast.
With all her
Play only
firearms.
during your turn. Yep.
For all the guns she can take.
Play only during your turn. Choose a firearm asset you control with fewer ammo tokens than its use's X value. Place ammo on that asset until it has ammo equal to its use's X value.
Bar.
Cool.
Sure.
The bar. In Leo Anderson.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. But
I feel like this is an okay, like, one of in a gun-heavy deck, because this is essentially like, hey, another copy of the card that you already played, which quite often, as you're running out of ammo, you're searching for anyway.
Right.
Like,
It's fast, which is pretty great.
Yeah, the fast is great. It's that 3 resource cost that's slowing me down personally on it. And the card.
I like the fact, like, I mean, fast makes it an amazing combat trick, and as a one of, you can put this on stick to the plan because it's tactic traded. So when you do need it, you know, Nick, it's like it's the same way you said about dynamite. When you need it right now, and you don't want it sticking in your hand when you don't need it for like 90% of the game.
I think what I said sounded much dumber than that, but yes, I agree with that sentiment.
Well, first off, it's good for rogues who guardians are kind of flush with like reload options, but rogues have like contraband as an option
And contraband too.
But this is like kind of their version of it, so I feel like it's gonna be a little bit worse than the guardian versions just because it's out of class, but I think it's good having that option. And if you're talking about Mark, you do think about something like let's say the bar, which has 8 ammo, and think about the value if you're like on 1 ammo and reload it all the way back up to 8, like then you're really getting some serious value. So obviously it's going to depend on the kind of weapons you're using and how much ammo. Like if you're using like a 2 ammo shotgun, then probably not a good use, but
Right.
This does go on stick to the plan for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think you need exactly 1 copy of this.
If this were
This is better than extra ammunition, right?
well, that's cheaper. It only costs 1 experience, but it adds
Depends
3.
on the gun.
Yeah, it
It
adds
costs an
3.
action.
Yeah, but it adds 3, and that can even go above the max. And that's what I was gonna say. Is I'd rather spend like 2 experience or even 3 experience to get extra ammunition that's fast. You know what I mean? Like capping it is what makes this like that, and the resource cost both kind of make me not excited about this card. But then again, I also haven't run it, so I do agree that including one of on Stick to the Plan is probably its best use.
I've only tried this a few times, and the times I've used it have been amazing. But
Yeah.
it's been few.
I think it just fits into that rogue approach of like being able to, sleight of hand out a gun when you're against the ropes, and now you can swiftly reload something, like just that fast aspect of avoiding opportunity attacks. I think it plays into that whole thing.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on from there, we've got Gregory Gry, or Gregory Gree. I don't know how he pronounces it, but he's a muckraker. He is a level 0 rogue asset. He is 3 cost. It has an intellect icon, ally, criminal, and dreamer traits. That's an odd include. Uses 9 resources. Reaction: when you initiate a skill test, spend up to 3 resources from Gregory. If this test succeeds by at least that amount, gain that many resources. He has 1 health, 2 sanity, and takes up the ally slot. I have found him to be a pretty decent resource engine as long as you're dealing with someone who has a high stat. I have enjoyed him in Tony.
Mm-hmm. I've used him in Finn a little bit. It might succeed by 2 Finn.
Yes. I feel like if you're going for those, because Rogue has that really strong thread of take fewer tests but make them big.
Yeah, blow them out of the water.
Yeah, and if you're going that way with it, if you're going lockpicks and, Daredevil and Momentum and kind of the suite of new cards that you've got, you can pretty regularly pull 2 to 3 resources off of him every turn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also viable if you want to kind of take it slow and just do like 1 resource each turn, and then you're basically have like a pocket Jenny or just like doubling your resource generation. Like I think that's valid too.
I'm totally an idiot. I read this card like 4 times trying to figure. I'm like, if you're spending the resources, why is it then good to gain the resources? Because I was skipping over from Gregory Gry.
Yeah.
Spend 3 if you succeed, gain 3. I was like, what the fuck? Why?
You're thinking like, watch this.
Yeah.
I just like to move tokens around.
Rogue.
Right?
Yeah, it's like High Roller but shitty. Yeah.
So I feel like this is another edition of Old Yeller where Gregory Gry's taking Henry Wan out back and shooting him.
Oh, no doubt,
Burying him
man. God.
very deep.
I shared that picture that I took of how many cards it took to make Henry Wan work, right? I got, like, the first time I played him, I got 4 tokens off of him. I was like, oh, yeah! And then I realized, or I think I posted, and Scott was like, Nick, you don't get to draw cards and get and get resources. You do one or the other. And I'm like, God damn it, this guy sucks.
Yeah, because you're like, I got 4 cards and 4 resources. That was good. I was like, no, Nick, it's 1 per. It's not 1 and 1.
I felt so good because I did like Premonition and I did Olive to really hedge my bets. Nope, still didn't.
So you would say that he left you wanting?
Yeah.
Yes.
This
Never gonna get old.
This one is way more of a stand-up Gry.
Oh my god, moving on.
Oh, those jerks. Those jokes hurt so bad. I need some healing words.
No. Oh god damn it. When I agreed to do the card review in the main episode,
Scott, read healing words.
Didn't agree to this bullshit.
Healing Words is a 2-cost mystic asset, level 0 with willpower icon, spell traded, uses 3 charges, actions, spend 1 charge, heal 1 damage from an investigator at your location, and it takes up the arcane slot.
This should have been called Clarity of Body.
And I think it's going to get played exactly as often as Clarity of Mind does.
Right. Well, no, this doesn't even, like, Clarity of Mind at least has Carolyn. This doesn't have anybody.
So, Ethereal Form is a 2-cost...
I mean, I'm not even going to stop you.
No, go.
No,
Okay.
Ethereal Form is a level 0, 2-cost mystic event. It has a willpower and agility icon. It is a spell trait type event. Evade. Add your willpower value to your skill value for this evasion attempt. If you succeed, disengage from each other enemy engaged with you, and for the remainder of the turn, you are ethereal.
I love that.
I know we talked about this in the preview, but that is literal game text on a card in the game that we play. You are ethereal. Enemies cannot engage or be engaged with you, and you cannot attack or deal damage to enemies.
So the fact that they that they define that with parenthetical text means that in the future they could just include the word ethereal and not necessarily define it. I don't foresee that happening unless we get a butt ton of ethereal cards, but they could. Like it's almost like I think it's essentially a keyword now, except for it's not capitalized.
I'll count it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Fun card.
Sure.
Love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really like the suite of Mystic events that we've gotten.
Yes.
Smashing skills together is better than substituting willpower for skills, and substituting willpower for other skills was good enough anyway. Also, I think this answers a question that's like Solo Mystic really wanted, because when you're out of shriveling charges and you really just need to get the last friggin' clue off this damn location and get the hell out, but you drew another enemy this turn, like, oh god, this is a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
To just be immune to enemies for a turn. This is what On the Lam wishes it could be.
Or there's like
Yeah.
or there's like a location in between you and the end of the scenario, and there's just like a pile of enemies. Like in Devourer. When all the cultists show up.
Can just
It's like,
ghost
oh
them
hey
out.
guys. Poof. Just
Bye!
Yeah, because that's the thing. There's a couple of other evasion options in Mystic, like Miss and Blinding Light, but the fact this is just straight up until the remainder of the round just gives you that flexibility that you can just ghost form and walk through a bunch of enemies. And also just that option of like in Solo Mystic, maybe you're not willing to spare the arcane slot for Miss because you're doing like Shriveling and Sixth Sense or something, but at least you have this in your back pocket as an evade option instead.
yeah.
I splashed this in my Rex deck because I wanted him to be kind of flexy and be able to go off on his own and not worry. And it has gotten him out of some pretty tight corners. It's pretty good. It's a good card.
I have not used it yet. I do have this in my Mystic Ashcan. Partly just to add to like the balance of evasion, but also because I'm tickled by the idea of like Duke turning to Ghost Dog too at the same time.
Yeah. You, and in brackets, your dog are ethereal.
I'm running this in my Luke deck right now, and it's fun to like when I have a couple of enemies engage with me who are a high evade, and then there's one at another location that has like one evade, and I'm like, I'm gonna evade you, poof, and then just run away. Like, yeah, it's fun.
Hey, look at that rat.
That rat didn't see me leave, and therefore neither do you. Sounded funnier in my head. Moving on.
That rat might have well been scrounging, though, Nick.
Scrounge for Supplies is a level 0 survivor event. Costs 0 resources. It is fortune traded, so Rex cannot take it, and its game text reads, choose a level 0 card in your discard pile, add the chosen card to your hand. How much experience do we need to make this fast?
So
It's pretty goddamn amazing as is.
It is! But how many experience? 5?
4.
I'd pay 4 for that.
Just so it's a level 4 survivor card.
I'm gonna call it now. This card hits the mutated list sometime in the next year.
Yeah.
Costing 4 experience.
I think it's fine. I don't think it's by itself breaking anything, but recursion
Not
effects
yet.
are always at the core of any degenerate combo.
Yeah.
And I'm running this in that Agnes build that I talked about earlier because, you know, when you bump out something from an arcane slot and it goes into your discard pile, hey, it saves you the trouble of trying to find another attack spell. Grab your shriveling back. Just if you're playing any deck that churns through cards, draws cards, commits cards, this is a great
Survivor does all of that. Everyone does all of that.
Most decks. This is a
If you're-
great card.
If you're playing a deck that plays cards,
If you're playing an Arkham deck,
yeah.
period.
The first time I saw this card, I had to like read it 5 times just because I was like, really, any level 0 card? No, there's no stipulations. Any level 0 card.
I don't have to pass a test?
It was so hard to
Not
believe.
an asset. It's not a survivor level 0 card.
No.
Like, oh.
Yeah,
Just
I think the fact that it
no
can hit
restrictions.
any class is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I will point out is signature cards are null level.
Right.
So you can't go back and grab, like, Silas's skill card, for instance. Stuff like that. Yeah, so just throwing that out there for people who are getting really excited about some weird combo. But
Calm
otherwise,
down your
like, this
excitement
is...
a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how you guys approach it, but I definitely could see this in a deck where you're looking to grab certain specific cards. But for me, I think a best approach to this card otherwise is to use it proactively. Like, instead of, let me just leave this in my hand for a long time, I think it's best to kind of treat it as it's opening up your discard pile as a second hand, and just grab, if you have a spare action, grab something that might be useful soon, instead of, don't fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect target, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I agree, Ian. Like, this to me feels like anytime you're like, I'll just draw a card as an action, just spend this. You know what I mean? Like, this is you doing that exact same action, but just trading it for a card you know you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like, unless there's nothing in your discard you want. But there usually is, right? So,
There should be if you built the deck right.
yeah.
I think being tempo conscious on this card is really important, but god, just
Yeah.
so good. I haven't seen anyone break the game with it yet, but give it time.
Oh, yeah. As the player card pool grows,
Yeah.
this thing's going to have a target on its back.
If they use enough brute force.
Oh my
they'll
God.
break the game.
I was waiting for it.
Muscle it through, baby. Ian.
Brute Force is a survivor skill, level 1, combat icon, innate and developed traits, max 1 committed per skill test. While Brute Force is committed during a basic fight action, it gains 2 combat icons. And the text, if this test is successful by 2 or more, this attack deals +2 damage.
Nice.
So basic fight action, you get 3 combat icons total, and it does 3 damage. That ain't bad.
Now, the math on this, because it has to be successful by 2 or more, basically those 2 fists it gives you, like, if you just ignore those and just
Sure.
say, okay, this gives me 1 fist, pass this test. And if you
Right.
do, you've succeeded in the requirements. This is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this was our spoiler
Yep.
card. So anybody have any change based on playing it? Because I think we were all loving it back then.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope,
Still good.
I think a single card to cap a 3 health enemy is a pretty decent trade
Yeah.
in most situations.
For 0 resources, yeah, you gotta pay more for that action most other times.
And if you want to hear more, go look at our Look What I Found on YouTube.
There
We
you
talked
go.
we talked about this card for 10 minutes. So let's move on to Versatile and cap this sucker off.
Oh gosh,
Won't talk about this card for 10 minutes.
could talk about
do our
this all
best.
day.
Where the hell are we at? Is it Scott? Is it me?
Oh, who knows?
Versatile is a
Versatile.
level 2 neutral asset, null costed, talent traded, permanent. You get +5 deck size. Your investigator's deck building options gain 1 other level 0 card from any class: Guardian, Seeker, Rogue, Mystic, or Survivor.
So, in response to my positing last episode that I had yet to hear the combo that made Versatile interesting, we actually got a lot of people who reached out to us through various spots to be like, hey, this is what I've done. And you know what? I was convinced by a few of them. So this is a pretty cool card. It will at some point be responsible for breaking the game, but you know,
Some would say it's already have.
some might. Some might.
I disagree, but it's pretty close. Yeah.
you know, I could, like, even at this point, like I just said, I'm running this new Agnes deck. Like, I could probably justify taking this to grab a Knowledge's Power and just kind of fluff out the rest of the deck with decent draw, and I'd feel good about that. So I think the biggest thing that you have to consider with Versatile is that you are diluting your deck, so you feel like you kind of have to address that somehow unless you're already running a really draw-heavy deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody used Versatile to just add Scrounge for Supplies to their deck?
I mean, that
No.
wouldn't surprise me to know that that's the Versatile combo that breaks the game in the future.
I do have an alternate version of the Mandy deck I was talking about earlier with the Serum, where I versatiled one, just did versatile one for Hollowed Mirror.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because that gives you those Myriad cards again and works with Serum really well. They draw cards, right? So then you're making up for those extra cards in your deck. And it's Mandy, who just grabs cards like there's no tomorrow. So adding a single Versatile really didn't feel like it changed that deck very much. But as far as like the number counting and how I can grab things, but yeah, that Hollowed Mirror though, such a good card. So I versatiled it in. Dat Mirror. Yep.
Yeah, Doovies in chat right now is mentioning Yorick with Charles Esquire. That's interesting.
It's a fun little buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gravedigger and the Esquire.
I was about to say, like, two of the
lawyer.
farthest archetypes from Cops, but
Yeah,
I mean, Lawyer's not that far off.
I guess.
Law and Order? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
bum bum.
I always find this card almost impossible to talk about, because like the only thing you can do is list off like all the many possibilities. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty. It's just, yeah.
I don't know.
It has so many options.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like this is the kind of thing where, like, I'm just going to be tickled from time to time when someone goes, hey, I took Versatile to drop X into my Zoe deck. Oh, wait, Zoe's a terrible example because she can...
To get a 6th level.
But y'all know what I mean. All right, so let's wrap up the player card reviews then and move on to the scenario. So, Thousand Shapes of Horror. I think a pretty common sentiment is to kind of compare this to The Secret Name. Though
What? No.
I do feel like more people enjoy this one than The Secret Name.
I would go so far as to say this is an apology for Secret Name. Although that can't be, because I think this was being designed before Secret Name even came out. So
Yeah, I do think that assumes a little bit, but it's kind of interesting. So shoot, what's the name of the story that this is based on?
The
It's
Unnameable?
Yeah. It's kind of vanilla Arkham in theme, which is fine. Kind of interesting to drop that in the middle of this campaign. You go through the haunted house, you do some shit, and then I don't know, the turn at the end is kind of an interesting. I don't know. I guess I kind of like the shift for the last act of this scenario.
yeah, this one feels very. To me, it feels like what's the first one in Night of the Zealot?
Gathering.
Gathering.
The Gathering. It feels like the Return to the Gathering, but even more. It felt, like exploring this house and everything. Like, I really enjoyed going back to this feeling of sneaking around a creepy house. And then all of a sudden you're like, huh. And then,
Oh god, I found something!
Then you find this stairwell and you're like, how the hell does this work? Yeah.
Spoiler alert, very difficultly.
Yes. Especially in 4-player.
Yeah. I think it's interesting the nameable itself being something that cannot be defeated, which we've seen before with a couple of enemies, like the big snake in TFA and here and there. But I think it always lends kind of an interesting. It does make that last part of the scenario tense when you're trying to rush down the stairs before this thing can catch up to you. I agree it's vanilla Arkham, but there's a kind of some interesting twist there.
I really liked how this scenario presented, at least in the first part, the getting to the stairway, or finding it rather, had a couple of different, like, there's 2 different triggers that need to be met, and you can meet them in 2 different ways each. Like, you need to get the unmarked tomb in play, and you need to find the silver key. And in order to do either of those things, they give you 2 different options. Like, for the unmarked tomb, you can either deal damage to the unnameable, or you can, is it a test or something? Oh, spend clues in the library. And then to find the silver key, there's 2 different locations that have text that allow you to activate it. So it's not funneling you into a certain strategy. It's giving you a couple options that are both more or less on equal difficulty, and letting you just kind of do what works best for you in that specific instance of playing the scenario. So,
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's part of. There's like a few things that go in its favor over Secret Name. I think one, it's a little bit less dragged out, I feel like, in terms of like the size of the map and the amount of clues you have to get, and yeah, the fact that there's like a few different ways that you can approach kind of hitting those objectives.
The amount of cards that go into your threat area.
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Not entirely unlike Secret Name.
Yeah. Those can become a problem if you do not take care of them.
Well, especially with, what's that one, Eyes in the Dark or whatever it's called, where it just sits there at the end of your turn, it discards and hits you based on the number of cards in your threat area.
Glowing Eyes.
Glowing Eyes, yeah. So, I mean, not only will those other ones eventually become a problem, but then if you're sitting on 2 other cards and then you get Glowing Eyes, it's like, oh, fuck, like, nah, this is my turn, guys. I just need to play cleanup over here.
It
Great
makes it an
art, too.
interesting kind of press your luck move to not address stuff that's in your threat area, because that's that's the eternal struggle, right? Is to be like, is this really something I need to address, or can I just tank this? And yeah,
I remember my first time playing through, I got Deceptive Memories, which goes in your play area, and then forced, after another card enters your threat area, choosing to discard a card from your hand. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, how often is that going to happen? And plus, it's a choose and discard. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's like 4 turns later, and my hand's empty, and I'm like, damn it, I should have gotten rid of this a lot earlier. Because at one point, I had 2 Deceptive Memories in my threat area, and I had no willpower icons, and I think I was solo Patrice, but I was 4-3, and I failed it twice. And then my next draw was another, like, I was like, can I just have a card? Can I just have a
Can I just?
Can I just? So.
Yeah, I'm not sure like how much there's like a distinctive strategy to this, other than like once you know the scenario, you know what to hit, and you kind of, once you get to the stairs part, it's like forget any more setup. You're just kind of rushing to the end of it at that, just doing whatever it takes. I did get one feel bad playthrough, which was with solo Leo, who has 1 agility, and so I get to the stairs, and the unnameable gets there, and my first stairs location is, well, there's already enemy at this location. Investigators at this location cannot move. So
Whoopsie doodle.
1 agility versus an enemy that I need to evade and I can't kill. Yep, that was a knockout for Leo.
Yeah, I really think this scenario, I haven't tried it true solo yet, but I think this one is particularly punishing true solo simply because of that second run down, like going down the stairs, because every location, like it has something for everybody. There's 6 different locations. I think you put 5 of them in play, if not all of them. And like, no matter what, there's going to be a location that your investigator is going to have a hard time with. Amongst all that. And so I think in true solo, if you don't have 2 investigators that kind of cover each other's weaknesses, this is going to be a problem. Because like I think when we played 4 players, Sean, we had the location that was test your lowest skill at a difficulty 2, and like everybody had a 1 in a skill except for me, who I was playing Daisy. So I was like, oh great, I'll just do that. Like that's my thing then. And if Daisy weren't there, everyone would have been testing 1 against that, which isn't terrible, but it's not fun.
There are lots of little silver bullets on that start climb down.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it can be a rough time, and I imagine I've yet to play it true solo too. Like, if you just get unlucky and you get the one that you're fucked with, then there that is.
Yep.
Right.
As Ian's story can attest.
For sure.
Turns out agility is not the dump stat first time ever.
Oh, well, it was Ian, though, so can we really count that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian, put more agility icons in your fucking Leo deck, I guess.
The one time I take the low agility investigator, I learned my lesson.
He's like, I'm going to set the stairs up so that this is the first one. I'm going to take a picture and show it to everybody.
I should have played Rita. So, fun story about this is the first time I played it solo. And I was playing Patrice. And Patrice, I had her set up. I had cornered and everything. So I was able to pass these tests, and I was successful. But the Treachery Endless Descent, which is the one where it, shuffles the stairs and stuff like that. I didn't fully read it through right to the very end, specifically the last sentence that says, add this card to the victory display.
That's a problem.
In solo, it didn't matter because I got through and I won. The next time I played it in 4-player, and there was two other people where this was their first time playing it, and one other player who had played it one time, and me who had played it once, but we had both played it solo. And for some reason, all 4 of us missed this add this card to the victory display. Ooh. So we went through the deck like twice with this Endless Descent, and I'm just like, oh my god, this fucking card is like, how does anyone beat this scenario?
And there are 5 copies in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
It's not like it's a 2 or a 3, they're 5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
It's rough.
Yeah. So, anyways...
so, Wards of Protection, Tests of Wills.
Yeah. Also, RTFC
also
for
that.
the fucking card.
Because even when you're playing it right, that card's fucking rough.
Yes.
It is. Yeah. But the fact that you only have to deal with each copy once makes it reasonable. Dealing with it like 11 times is not. So we finally realized what we were doing, but we had almost won at that point. So
do you guys have any particular strategies to dealing with the unnameable aside from just do all the things to reduce its stats? Because that's been my strategy.
Yeah, and you were playing Wendy in our 4-player game, and having her being able to engage it, evade it, and then run off was really helpful as well.
Dodge, tank.
Yeah, because then I played it again 2-player. Yeah, I played it again, not 2-player, but 2-handed with Roland and Calvin. And that was much more nail-bitey because I didn't have a dedicated character who could always handle it. Calvin did most of the time, but then occasionally there'd be a time or two where he just had trouble. Yeah.
I would say the one strategy I can think of is there's certain locations that in order to meet the conditions, there needs to be a certain amount of damage on the enableable, which may not be a problem for you, but it's 5 fight. So I've found for certain investigators, Teslas damage, Dynamite Blast, or Sneak Attack. Any of those kind of cards are useful to get that damage on it without having to fight.
yeah, this is the scenario I look forward to planning for Iron Man because I just think there's like so many things to do, and it's going to feel so good to know right from the word go that, okay, like Team A of 2 investigators, you're going over to this side of the house. Team B, you got to do this, hit these rooms in this order, then we're going to meet up here, then we're going down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we'll have task forces.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, it's going to be so much fun.
And in our 4-player game, one of the players, I can't remember he's playing Leo. He never left the graveyard, and he just was murdering ghouls as they'd climb up out of the ground, which seemed like a pretty good way to go. Have your monster killer just camp on the grave. The only downside is the skulls they go up to like a -3 then. But even still, like he handled it fine, and it worked out for the rest of us.
So resolving this bad boy, I don't think there's like a great disparity between the different resolutions. Randolph survives or he doesn't. You get the key if you do or you do or don't get the key, rather. And then you get a skull in the bag if you're going deeper into the dreams.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you move to the Onironauts, wherein you get to decide where the cat goes again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How have you guys been determining that? Is it just role playing at this point, or have you determined any mechanical advantage? Like, we know that with the bags working as they do, you get a bonus token to one campaign or the other based on that. I haven't, in the campaigns where I've done it, I haven't really found it to make too big of a difference. I've seen that token like maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it's a one of in the bag. So, but I tend to go like, who's having the most trouble? You get the cat.
Yeah. I tend to give it to the waking side, just because I find those ones more difficult. Honestly,
Yeah,
I find
I'd agree.
the dream scenarios. I don't want to say they're easy because they're not, but they're just easier.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, with
Yeah.
certain exceptions, but yeah, I think it's generally I just kind of make a rough judgment call of I will tend to lean towards giving it to the waking side, but you look at the investigators involved and what team I think is a little bit weaker, and that's who I tend to give it to. But that I have gotten the token a few times, but it has come up a couple times to be absolutely clutch. So
Yes.
yeah, like even if you look at 1,000 Shapes of Horror, like the cultist token is terrible, which you reveal another token, and if you fail, the unnameable attacks you no matter where it is. And then you look at the tablet, which is +2, and if you succeed by a certain amount, you can just straight up evade an enemy, which could be
Yes.
the nameable if you succeed by enough.
The silver key, I found I have been taking it every time I get offered it.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Is anyone like? This is a really good asset.
I think I just happen to be playing decks right now that really like their accessory slot.
I honestly
I think
this
it's
might be
pretty solid.
worth Relic Hunter. Quite honestly, like it's
Let me
pretty
look this
good.
up again. When you
It's,
take a horror exhaustic, cancel one of that horror. Oh yeah, and those icons are great.
Yeah. What's the? Is it well prepared? Where you can exhaust it to get? Yeah. It's
Nick approves.
it's pretty good.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of times where you just get pinged for one horror here, one horror there, and that's just straight up not happening.
Yeah.
I think I took this and I think I threw it in Calvin.
Yeah, I have it in Calvin for sure.
I put it in my Tony deck. That's based around Crystallizer of Dreams.
Oh yeah, sure.
That it's a different story, but Crystallizer hasn't been as good as I want it to be. Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool little asset, and at very least, it is like +3 to 1 crucial willpower test. So.
Yes.
That's yeah. Worst case scenario, it's an unexpected courage plus.
All right. Well, any final comments on 1,000 Shapes of Horror before we move on?
I do like in the interlude if you've chosen to ask for it, the interlude just ends.
Yeah. Like fine.
Fine then, you asked for it. Oh shit! I completely forgot to mention while we were actually talking about the scenario. Swarm rats better than
God.
swole rats,
Yes.
right? Like
Agreed.
I feel like
Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
Swarm of Rats. It's been in the title since the core set. It was just its moment has finally come. Swarm makes that a very interesting enemy compared to
Soul
what we
Rats.
did in Secret Name with just making it bigger.
Secret name rats could survive like Storm of Spirits and shit, which is it's dumb.
Yeah. I
But
definitely
I also like how it makes Swarm. You know, we've talked about Swarm in general, but I like the idea that a Swarm to Swarm of Rats is a threatening enemy. Like,
yeah.
If that spawns a location away from you and you don't have a good way to get away, like that's swinging in at you for 3 damage, and it just I don't know. I think Swarm is a really interesting mechanic in general.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about it is that you can whittle the enemy down, whereas like a swole rat, like until you can take it out, like it's just a big chunk there sitting there.
like Daisy could punch 3 swarming rats in the face, whereas she's gonna die to a swole rat.
Right.
Very likely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing too on the swarming, just because this was pointed out to me, or I was discussing with Brian earlier, but Zoe is amazing in this campaign.
Oh,
Because
just ping a swarm card off.
well, no, when those swarm shows up, you get 3 resources if it's swarming too.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You are just
That's way more
so
important.
rich. Yeah,
I need to
Yeah,
do a
yeah, it's
Zoe
really good.
run for sure. Yeah.
all the fucking money in the world, which you can use to spend on a flamethrower, which kills all the things, or dynamite, or whatever. Yeah, so
Nice.
super rich Zoe in this campaign is an
I
option.
need to try that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Just for this scenario, just standalone.
I'm picturing Zoe like that scene in Ace Ventura where the landlord leaves and he just like summons all the creatures like, oh.
Yeah,
all our Ace Ventura references.
I don't remember that movie at all.
Oh god, that was such an important movie to my childhood.
Yeah, I've not
like-
seen it
it's
since
like
way
30
back
years
then.
ago.
I know, it's been so long. But at the time, it was freaking hilarious. I don't know if
It was.
Yeah.
I remember him coming out of the rhino. That's about it.
Oh, that
was the
2.
second one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen 2 more than I've seen 1.
Oh, who are you?
I think I've seen this.
all I
one
remember
once.
from either of those movies is him getting the 2 spears in the legs, and
That's
using
the-
that.
I just remember the meme.
Yeah, that was our meme
Yeah, I
from
know,
last
that's all I
Iron Man.
It was so good.
All right. Excellent. Guys, so we're running a little on the long side here, so let's move it into a high and tight tentacle time. Ian, what's been grabbing thee?
A couple things, just a couple games. One is, I don't know why it took me so long, but I finally got Star Trek Bridge Crew for my PlayStation VR virtual reality. And, yeah, it's pretty much fulfilling my dreams I've had since I was a kid of being on the bridge of a starship. It's amazing. I freaking love it. But I need to play some multiplayer because I think that's where it would really... Like, for those who don't know, it's basically you are a bridge crew on a starship and you are sitting down at the station and doing all the controls to move the starship and fire the weapons and all that. So, yeah, if anyone out there plays, let me know because I'd love to... get some bridge action in.
How am I only now just learning that you have a PSVR?
I think it was briefly mentioned a couple technical times back, but yeah.
Oh, you need to be louder, Ian.
Okay.
Just in general.
I'll scream it from
Just
the
shouting.
Yeah, I might download that. That sounds like something that I might enjoy multiplayer. Let's talk.
Okay. We'll make it happen. And the other is a game called World of Horror, which just recently learned about a couple days ago, or maybe yesterday. So this is like a, how to describe it? A roguelike horror game, kind of retro style graphics and soundtrack. But I think people who enjoy Arkham would get a kick out of it because it's like, similar mechanics in that you have certain stats that you're testing, kind of turn-based combat. You're usually investigating some kind of horrible mystery and moving from location to location and resolving events at each of those locations. So definitely some like Arkham horror DNA there. So it's in early access now, but I recommend people try that out because I'm having fun with it so far.
Nick, how about you?
I was just gonna say I looked that up on Steam, and the first picture that comes up is I'm assuming an enemy called a ribcage woman, and that is, oh boy, like that's interesting. Currently, what have I been working on? A lot of role playing stuff going on, surprising nobody, I'm sure. But not only that, but also a lot of streaming stuff going on as well. So tomorrow night I'll be on twitch.tv/gamers table and their series called Big 20, which gets a bunch of game masters and dungeon masters together to discuss various role-playing topics. And tomorrow night
you need to talk in podcast parlance, so by the time this releases, you will have already have been on.
That's true. You're right. You are right. So it's tomorrow if you're listening live. If you're not listening live, you can find it on twitch.tv/gamerstable VOD or then eventually on YouTube. You can also find it if you subscribe to the Gamers Table podcast RSS. They're released on there as well. But the topic that we're discussing is collaborating with multiple GMs, which is apropos because our West Marches campaign, online West Marches campaign, just wrapped up like completely last week. The last official session was held. It ran for a little over a year, and so me and another DM from that are going to be on Big 20 tomorrow. In addition to that, I am also streaming our Astral Tides role-playing game, which is every other Sunday night. You can watch that live at twitch.tv/nscorey, and you can also catch those VODs on YouTube shortly thereafter. And finally, I'm starting a solo stream every Wednesday morning, because I realize I have a couple hours available every Wednesday morning after I drop my son off at class. And so I figured I'm usually spending that time prepping D&D campaigns anyway, so why don't I stream my process and like talk about how I prep and what I'm doing and that sort of thing. So you can tune in to twitch.tv/nscorey to watch me prep some D&D campaigns every Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Cool. Where are we at? Scott, how about you?
High and tight. Playing lots of Ring Fit Adventure because I'm addicted to that game. When you gamify exercise, holy crap, do I exercise a lot.
Yeah, because working out is a fucking chore, but being active is fun.
It's true. It's very true. Doing that, and honestly, man, in my free time, I'm either doing that because I played for so long, or playing some Marvel. So nothing crazy recommendations from me this time around. I apologize.
Well,
I'll do better next time.
It doesn't surprise me that you've now tripled down on Ring Fit. So
Seems on brand.
Yeah. Oh, and in Marvel, yeah, I don't know if I talked about this. I built this Captain Marvel deck that's Justice, the yellow cards, because FFG yellow cards, right?
yeah.
And I was playing with Morton Dahl this weekend, and we were talking about deck building in Marvel, and he's like, I'm not sure if the card pool's there yet. I'm like, oh yeah, I have this deck that I think really works well. And I played it, and like I'm taking turns where I'm like going through about 11 or 12 cards in my hand because of all the card draw and all the icons work. And at the end of it, he's like, okay, you've convinced me that there's deck building in this game. So if you want a really fun Captain Marvel deck, let me know.
God damn it! Of course, it's one that I can't get a hold of. Fucking FFG.
No, not Captain
Ms.
America.
Marvel.
Oh, Captain Marvel. Okay, all right, we're good.
Yeah.
Send me that list.
All right, there is one card from Captain Marvel or Mrs. Marvel, and one card from
America.
Captain America in there.
So
God,
But
there's a lot
that
of
it was
captains
mistaken
around.
for.
Yeah,
So you mean the ones I can't get a hold of and was originally angry about?
yeah, I know. Just proxy them. It's fine.
fucking-
It's just it's one card. Fine.
It's
I
two
don't-
cards.
I just FFG.
Could you
produce.
just print enough
Could
of
you
your
just?
stuff
Because
that's it's gonna sell so well. Yeah.
yeah. So for my part, I finally finished Horizon Zero Dawn. I finally bared down and was like, you know what, we're just gonna do this. So I pounded through the DLC and then finished the main story. God, what a good game! Really highly recommended. Really cool story. Very unique setting. Characters are all interesting. Combat's really fun. I think maybe I needed to dive a little bit deeper into kind of the weapon customization systems than I actually did to get a little bit more out of it. But anyway, still really enjoyed my playthrough of it. My only criticism is that there's just a lot of game. And my game queue ever groweth. So it was a bit of a thing to finally finish it. And as a result, have now picked up Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, you have.
And that's been interesting. It's been fun. I may have mentioned once or twice on the cast that I've become a fan of like the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro stable of games, and the Fallen Order is kind of doing a lot of things to emulate that type of game. I'm still not quite keyed into its particular cadence of combat, so I go through certain levels where I've blown through bosses on my first try. I'm playing on, there's 4 difficulty settings. I'm playing on the 3rd highest. So I'm not like crazy. I'm not like at the top, but I'm,
second highest.
Yeah, there you go. 3 of 4.
Gotcha.
So there are some levels where I blow completely through, don't have a problem. I beat the boss on the first try, and now I'm on Dathomir, and just trying to get the cadence of like hand-to-hand combat down is really kind of eluding me at the moment. So I don't know. I reserve my right to change my opinion, but I'm currently of the opinion that the combat's not quite as refined as I want it to be. But it's also maybe I'm not learning the lessons it's trying to teach me.
I'll just throw it out there that I'm not a Dark Souls guy. I'm not a Sekiro guy. And anyone who's played those games and then plays Fallen Order, they say the combat isn't as refined as those previous 2. But that's what it's trying to do. Do you know what I mean? Like it's trying to be that really difficult thing. Dathomir is the planet where I was like, screw this, I'm going to easy. Okay. And then I loved the game from there on in. So just throwing that out there.
So I gotta power through.
Like as soon as you get on the planet, that death claw looking thing, I forget what it's called. That thing, I was like, this is so dumb. I don't care anymore. And then I had so much fun afterwards. So yeah.
Isn't Dathomir the homeworld of the Rancor?
It sure is.
Yes.
I fully expect the last boss on Dathomir to be a full-grown Rancor, and Scott, don't confirm it.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
But yeah, I've been having fun with it. What I like is that it's not the Force Unleashed, because the Force Unleashed was fine, and I'll turn it on from time to time. But it was so over the top. And
that's
just
why they're so good.
I mean, that's what's fun about it. But this was not that. This is way more grounded. This is like when your character jumps, it's kind of a normal athletic human jump, and
it's a shitty little jump,
right? And I don't know. It is less exciting, but it also makes the feeling of the world way more grounded because it just feels more close to what we recognize as reality.
You know, when I play video games, you know what I look for? Realism.
But yeah, interesting game. So I'll be reporting back on that. Then I also picked up, Justin lent me Control, which I've heard nothing but good things about. So that's very, very close to hitting my actual PS4 at some point. And then today, on a whim, I fired up Red Dead because why not? It's Red Dead, and fired up online, and it's actually pretty fun. So, Ian, if you ever want to hop on Red Dead Online.
Yeah, I still need to finish that game, too.
Oh, good God.
Ian,
I
know.
Yes,
I had such good momentum going for a while, and then something happened, but I can't remember what. But I need to get back to it.
Yeah, super solid. Anyway, so check out our... we don't have a whole lot of extra content out right now. We mentioned Dissonant Voices is updated. The other guys are working on their respective campaigns, so hopefully in the mid to near future we'll have other campaigns out there for Dissonant Voices, so be sure to become a patron if you're interested in that thing. TNA should start up again pretty soon here. Nick and Ian will be picking up their Chaos, or their side of the Chaos campaign.
After you guys do.
Right. Exciting stuff. So join our Discord, subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch if you haven't already to keep apprised of when we're doing those things. And otherwise, thank you for joining us for episode 77 of Mythos Busters. We'll see you all next time.